In this module, we are discussing about financial architecture after the World War II. Whenever we try to understand this financial architecture under the globalization prospects, then we need to understand that there are different kind of aftershocks of that World War II which appeared over the time in the history. First of all, the currencies were not remained convertible into the gold. Before World Wars, the currencies were capable to convert it into gold. Secondly, there was some restrictions imposed on foreign investment. Previously foreign investment was growing and countries are supporting each other to increase the foreign investment across countries. But now that is going to be restricted. Then government focus has changed. In terms of specifically government want to keep the exchanges stable as well as hold the monetary policy autonomy. So government is not willing, or different kind of governments, they were not willing to sacrifice their monetary policy and they don't want to face exchange rate instability. So that was their focus. Actually, whenever we observe the Bretton Woods era, in which from 1945 to 71, the limited capital mobility happened. Actually, these institutions, the purpose of these institutions were to facilitate the countries across the world after the World War to move towards more globalized process. To say they need to integrate more easily. So these institutions are actually developed for this purpose, and specifically IMF was helping in terms of financial integration. But the capital mobility still remained quite low. In 1941, Keynes has proposed actually the international economic order, and at that time the purpose was same, to keep the exchanges stable. But at that time, after First World War, Second World War was on or in the process though, so therefore it's quite difficult to keep the exchanges stable. And at that time, Keynes proposal related to the strict restriction on the capital flows, and also mentioned that on the one side foreign exchange should be restricted, secondly capital flows or capital movement should be restricted, and international clearing union must be there, which is going to clear the accounts across the countries. And even Keynes suggested about the Bancor, another currency which is convertible into gold. So that was the idea of the Keynes. But at that time, in parallel, H.D. White plan has been actually approved, because on the basis of that plan, Bretton Woods agreement was made and IMF was established, World Bank was established, as well as GATT was established. So all these are the outcome which we are now observing are the outcome of H.D. White plan. So that was more successful as compared to that, because that plan actually focuses on watching and controlling capital movements instead of totally imposing any kind of restrictions. On the other side, Friedman and Weiner, they were in favor of floating exchange rate. They were saying that exchange rate should not be fixed, and secondly, capital flow or capital movement must be free, at least in the short run. So these were the points which were raised by different kind of economists. If we are going to observe this table is actually showing that how IMF articles are referring the conditions which were imposed by the IMF. So Article 8 actually shows that there is no restrictions on capital movement related to the current account payment. So restrictions or restraint on capital movement was prohibited. So non-discriminatory multilateral convertibility on current account was focused in this article. On the other side, Article 6 Part 3, it mentioned that members may exercise such control as are necessary to regulate international capital movement. So here some kind of leverage was given to the member countries, that if they face any kind of problem and they feel necessary to control, then they can exercise that control. On the other side, Article 6 Part 1, it also mentioned members are prohibited to use IMF resources. So they are not allowed to use IMF resources to meet large or sustainable or sustained outflow of capital. So if capital outflow is going on and they need to finance it, then they are not allowed to use IMF resources. So that was the major perspective of the IMF with respect to the capital flow. That may be the reason that during the Bretton Woods era, the capital mobility remained a bit limited. It was not so much extensive.